Beijing has hit the brakes on the global flow of these critical minerals. The move is a direct strike in Trump's second-term trade war, tariffs, bans, and now minerals.
It all started with a shift, not just in strategy, but in global power.
Their factories are closing all over China because we're not taking their product. We don't want their product unless they're going to be fair with us.
For years, China held a chokehold on the world's rare earth mineral supply, controlling up to 90% of the refining market. These rare earths aren't actually rare in terms of presence on Earth, but their refinement is costly, toxic, and time-consuming, and that's where China cornered the market.
It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back hard.
The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, offered their industries government backing, stripped away environmental regulations, and flooded global markets with underpriced rare earths, knocking out competition from the US, Australia, and other Western economies.
But their stock market has crashed, their economy is way down. So I think when you talk about pain threshold, there is no way that a tit-for-tat strategy works for China.
But that monopoly, it's breaking apart, and fast.
U.S. tariffs are making a dent in China's economy.
The Trump administration took bold steps to confront China's dominance, and now, in a major geopolitical move,
the situation is extremely severe. We immediately couldn't handle it after those tariffs were imposed.
China's rare earth monopoly is crumbling. Factories across China are shutting down. The stock market is shaky. U.S. tariffs are hitting the Chinese economy where it hurts. And for the first time in decades, America is fighting back economically with more than just words. The real blow came with a deal inked between the U.S. and Ukraine, one that many overlooked as a simple trade partnership. But it's far more than that.
The U.S. and Ukraine finally inking that long-awaited so-called minerals deal, establishing an economic partnership in recognition of U.S. support to Ukraine. The Treasury Department announcing that this is a signal to Russia that the U.S. is committed to a peace that's centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine. Also saying no state or person who funded the Russian war machine, or supplied it rather, will be allowed to benefit from Ukraine's reconstruction.
It's a direct strike at the CCP's strongest economic leverage. Ukraine holds an estimated $26 trillion worth of minerals under its soil, much of them the same critical rare earths China monopolized. In exchange for continued support in resisting the Russian invasion, Ukraine has given the U.S. access to this untapped mineral wealth. This isn't just economic diplomacy, it's strategic warfare without bullets. The U.S. Treasury didn't mince words. The message was clear. Anyone who aided Russia's war machine would be locked out of Ukraine's reconstruction. That includes China. A pointed jab from Secretary Scott Bessent emphasized that no state complicit in the war effort would profit from the post-war rebuild.
This is an economic partnership, so we are going to accelerate the Ukraine economy, and as the president says, as I always say, economic security is national security is economic security. So a strong Ukraine post this conflict will help Ukrainians maintain their national security. In terms of the deal, Maria, this is a total economic partnership. This isn't just rare earths. It's infrastructure, it's energy. So there's the opportunity here for both sides to really win. And again, what this isn't, it isn't one of these rapacious Chinese deals where the more powerful side goes in, says, here, sign away your national patrimony. The American people don't make any money if the Ukrainians don't prosper. So now we are fully aligned in terms of economics. And again, I think this is a strong signal to the Russian leadership, and it gives President Trump the ability to now negotiate with Russia on even a stronger basis, as opposed to the daylight that had been previously created between the U.S. and Ukraine.
That clause, buried in the deal, effectively shut the door on China. This isn't just bad news for Russia, it's a disaster for China. Rare earths were one of the few bargaining chips the CCP held over the West. With Ukraine now stepping in, that leverage is disappearing, and China knows it. In fact, they saw it coming. While the world was watching tanks roll across Ukraine, Chinese oligarchs were quietly buying up land. Many suspected to be proxies for the CCP, but Ukrainian President Zelensky has signaled a crackdown, promising to annul these shadow deals and deny China any mineral rights within Ukraine. That land, according to Ukrainian law, was acquired illegally, and the CCP's attempt to build backdoor control is now unraveling. China's entire rare earth strategy was never about fair play. Deng Xiaoping, the former leader who orchestrated the Tiananmen Square crackdown, once said, "The Middle East has oil, China has rare earths." That statement set the stage for decades of monopolistic strategy. With state support, China focused not on owning the minerals, but on mastering and dominating the refining process. They undercut global prices, forcing other countries' miners and refiners out of business.
Guy. So make me an offer. Give me a deal. Let's win-win. And so that's his approach, and that's the approach you have to make. So what Zelensky has done in his victory plan is not only ask for more weapons to pummel the heck out of Russia, which is actually it's on the ropes economically.
No one wanted to match China's environmental disregard and artificially low costs, so China won. Until now. Trump's administration understood the game and began flipping the board. Trade wars, tariffs, and now mineral deals were his weapons. For China, it's a nightmare scenario. With Ukraine's reserves being unlocked, and with allied nations like Canada and Australia holding untapped rare earth deposits, the global balance is shifting. China's weapon of economic intimidation is weakening by the day. In response, China is lashing out. Their propaganda machines are working overtime. Articles are surfacing claiming the US is desperate to negotiate, attempting to paint Washington as weak and panicked. But the reality, Chinese officials are flying to the US to beg for talks. Beijing is spreading disinformation, trying to maintain face among its citizens, not because of strength, but because of fear. A government that once bragged it could eat grass for 3 years in the name of trade war endurance is now watching its grip loosen with every new Western partnership. But China's retaliations are getting more desperate. The CCP recently banned the export of certain rare minerals crucial for batteries and defense tech. Yet, this ban may hurt them more than it hurts others. America is already accelerating domestic and allied mineral projects. With global sentiment turning against China and economic decoupling on the rise, Beijing's move may be too little, too late. Then there's the darker side of China's reaction: hacks, manipulation, and political infiltration. European and American politicians critical of Beijing are being targeted. A whistleblower exposed how Facebook once cooperated with CCP censors during the Hong Kong protests. The CCP has built a $30 billion global propaganda budget, aiming to silence critics and shape narratives. Yet with every act of censorship and intimidation, opposition strengthens. Back home, Chinese citizens aren't blind to this growing instability. Many are mocking the idea of surviving on grass, laughing at the absurdity of their leaders' bravado. Inside China, nationalism masks a quiet panic. The CCP's inability to play fairly on the world stage is backfiring, and they're losing control of the narrative. Meanwhile, Trump is using every piece of leverage. With Ukraine's mineral partnership, America is regaining control over the global supply chain for critical technologies, from defense systems to green energy. This isn't just a win for Trump, it's a foundational shift in geopolitics. For the first time, the US has successfully checked China's most valuable economic weapon. And it doesn't stop with minerals. The deal with Ukraine also includes infrastructure, energy, and long-term development. It's not a predatory agreement like the CCP's Belt and Road, it's mutually beneficial. The American strategy is to elevate partners, not enslave them. This strengthens alliances while isolating bad actors. Russia's anger is understandable. Many of the minerals in question are located in territories currently under Russian control. With US interests now directly tied to these regions, the conflict enters a new phase. Any encroachment on these resources could now be interpreted as a direct economic attack on the US. This puts pressure on Russia and by extension on China, whose silent backing of the invasion is now backfiring economically. China is scrambling, but the trap is set. With rare earth supplies diversifying and more nations joining the effort to counter Chinese dominance, the CCP's grip is slipping. The monopoly that took decades to build could unravel in months. Trump's aggressive tactics, often criticized, are now proving to be strategically devastating for America's rivals. This isn't just a chapter in a trade war, it's a turning point in the global economic order. The United States has not only crippled China's rare earth monopoly, but also signaled that global resource control must be transparent, fair, and shared among allies. China's era of unchecked dominance in this sector is ending. And it's ending not with a bang, but with a signature on a minerals deal that may reshape the next century. Don't miss what's next in the global power shift. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications now. Join us for real. Uncensored insights the mainstream won't show you.